So today on the Music Retail Podcast, I've got Dave Zimet from Hickey's Music in Ithaca, New York. And Dave has owned this 130-year-old business since the 90s. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about the history of Hickey's Music and key transition points, the kind of things that they've experienced, what they're currently working on, trials, tribulations, struggles, successes, and then what the future holds. So, Dave, welcome to the Music
Thank
Retail
you.
Podcast.
Pleasure to be here.
So, I think you are definitely your business is one of the older businesses that I've interviewed for the podcast, which is going to be really interesting. So, give me kind of the kind of Cliff Notes version on how Hickey's Music came to be, because I read the About Us section of your website, which is actually really well written and entertaining. And if people want to really kind of dive into it, that's a good resource to check into it. But you have an interesting and colorful history for Hickey's Music. So talk to me about that.
Well, the store, as far as I've been able to figure out, started by this guy named Joseph Hickey, who learned how to play banjo and ukulele from his sister, who was a nun, and it just started as a little corner music store. And then Ithaca College started a music program, and for many years, the tradition has it that Hickey's was the library for the School of Music, and as they were getting going, and all those music teachers that came through Ithaca developed an allegiance for the store, and particularly in Central New York, because it was such a great resource. I did my master's in Ithaca in the mid '70s, and it was traditional on Friday afternoon. Everybody would go down the hill to Hickey's, cash their check for the beer run, and spend some time browsing the stacks, and then so created a lot of loyalty.
Mm-hmm.
The music store went through the normal economic ups and downs of American history. I came to be involved with it when I moved back to Ithaca in the mid '80s, and I had moved back to teach at Ithaca College, to teach repair, and so I started actually subcontracting, doing some work for them and stuff. But I ran my own business for many years, and then as the store was sort of in trouble, and I figured, what the hell, and
Mm-hmm.
it was too important for it to disappear, and I had just moved my shop from my home into town, and so I put the two together. And then shortly after that, well, actually, when I made a deal to buy the store, this kid walks into the store and says, "Hey, I hear you're going to buy the store. I'm looking for a job." And that turned out to be Chuck DiPaolo, who is currently my partner, and that's been a great asset. I was, my basis was in repair with and sort of a BI type of background.
Mm-hmm.
But the Hickey's opened this whole world of print music, which I just became enamored with. I actually, when I used to play in New York, and there was a store there called Padelson's that most people have heard of, that were in the classical music world back then. And I had this dream that my store was going to be another Padelson's. Of course, I didn't take into account the fact that there was a city of 8 million people around Padelson's, and I was literally in the cornfield. So I had to alter our aspirations a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But something happened because we're in Ithaca. A bunch of kids from Cornell came down to visit us, and told us about this thing called the World Wide Web, which we knew nothing about, and they convinced us that we should get a website, and so that was our step into the new age, and it was a option that made something of a Padelson's type store viable, because
Hmm.
our customers were not going to be limited to central New York. And Chuck and I just had a passion for the print end of the business. Um, and so, a lot of our energy was, how do we make this fly? And then going back a little before I had moved into Ithaca, when I was just running my shop, the folks at John Keel Music had come down and convinced me to get into the rental business. And so I went, that's a whole nother story. you know, we had a number of stores, none of which are still around other than John Keel,
Hmm.
that were doing the rental business at that time, which I had some better and worse relationships with. But
What time period did you add rentals to the mix?
um, I think I started doing rentals in probably about 85, 86.
Gotcha.
But that was out of my house.
Hmm.
And so then when we bought the store, then it became a much more, walk-in type of thing. And
Hmm.
previously I did everything by deliveries. And then eventually we we had, at one point, we worked with Wendell Harrison Music, and and uh, and then we went on our own, and that
You were an affiliate.
we were
Is that what you're
affiliate
saying?
with,
Yeah,
yeah, we were
gotcha.
affiliate with John Keel, and then we were affiliate with Wendell Harrison, and then we
Then
may have
owned
been
your own
affiliate with,
inventory.
yeah, yeah.
Gotcha.
And,
And Hickey's, I mean, for a long time, like you guys you were really specializing in print music. I mean, going back to, kind of the early days of it, had
yeah,
based on what I've read, had just a tremendous amount of print inventory. And we're kind of, renowned for that. And website says, like, shipping stuff all across the country and all across the world, which is actually very interesting because with one of our stores, which is now our namesake store, Ernie Williamson Music, similar deal. That store, though, is just a young pup because it started only in 1935, not 1892 like
yeah.
Hickey's did. And but that store also specialized in print music and back in the early days also records too. But would ship music all over the world as well. And then, but you had Hickey's experienced a pretty significant decline starting around the 70s and print music, and of course that's continued to be a challenge and since that time period. What was it in the 70s do you think caused a decline in print, and where is print music today for you?
Well, I think that as I said, the store had stayed in the family, and by 1970 it was being run basically by two people, and and they uh, had really pretty much limited it to the local market. They weren't doing any kind of outreach, and the if somebody wanted something, they get it. And
Hmm.
there's just the having the new and upcoming stuff was not part of their mix. They also had thousands of out of date charts on the wall, and so people had sort of gotten bored with looking through the stuff.
Right.
Uh,
That can happen with print.
yeah, and when we came in, we made a conscious decision that we weren't going to stock band music and orchestra music, large ensemble music. That was not
Hmm.
where our interest was. And there were other people that were doing it really well. And what we um, yeah, that, like, really comes down to where your passion is. And
Right.
we were into solo and ensembles, chamber music type of stuff, and working with teachers and their students. So we certainly tried to make ourselves a viable option for band music, but there was no way without having specialists to really do that well.
Right. Right. What's your print selection look like today?
It's big. Uh, the you probably know we have a real strong presence in the trombone world, and so we have. You always hesitate to say you have everything, but there's pretty. It's very hard for a trombone player to not be able to get what they need from us. And
Just in print
either
music or in?
well, with everything. I mean, that's a we
Gotcha.
do the
Okay.
other stuff too, but we want the trombone teachers to be able to tell their student, oh yeah, call Hickey's, they have it.
Right.
And so as we've well, let me back up. So I bought the store, and we're trying to figure out how to make this thing fly. And I get a call from the viola teacher at Ithaca College, who says, "Oh, this is in '91, I think. The International Viola Conference is going to be in Ithaca next month. We'd love for you to exhibit." And we said, "Okay." Had no idea what do an exhibit meant because we'd never done one, and yeah, so okay, sure. And then we started getting call from CF Peters and from some foreign publishers. Hey, I hear you're going to be there. Can you exhibit our stuff? And so this actually turned Chuck and I onto the idea of, oh, this is how you reach out. This is before the internet,
Mm-hmm.
and or slightly before,
Mm-hmm.
and so we set up a bunch of tables. We had all this viola music, which we knew nothing about, but we learned quick, and we learned how people that are passionate about their instruments get into the kind of things that they're looking for. And so when there was an international trombone conference, we jumped on that because Chuck's a bass trombone player, and then we've done the trumpet shows and horn shows and double reed shows, and some we'll travel all over the country for, depending on our market penetration. But no, so trombone, I think we've done every trombone show that's been since we started.
Wow.
And and so one of the things, and I suspect for you as well, we really like our customers. And we really like the people that are into making music, and so we have friends all over that we see maybe once a year or maybe once every 4 or 5 years. But
Mm-hmm.
when you're doing a 5-day show, you see these people 3 and 4 times or 5, or maybe more often at the booth, and you develop a relationship, and then that relationship extends through the year when they call or email about do you have this or can you find this, and for me, that's the most satisfying thing of the job is you get to meet these people. And some people are just incredible artists, some are incredible people, and there's a few jerks in the mix, but
Sure.
by and large, these are just really great people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we feel the same way about the people that come into the store. They're here because they like what we like,
Right.
and so we enjoy it. So anyway, so doing these shows was a huge step for us, and occasionally then we would expand our the depth of our offerings depending on the expertise we had in the store. So when we had some trumpet people come in as employees, we started to grow the trumpet department, and then and brass quintets. So it's been pretty much organic,
Mm-hmm.
and so we try to have representative stuff in the store for the local central New York community, and then we in various areas we try to be representative for the world market.
Gotcha. So your specialization for your business then primarily school music and print. and with some kind of deep specializations into certain niches that have sort of kind of happened organically, especially the trombone market. Is that accurate?
Um, it's sort of accurate. I mean, we you know, the print music has changed. The market has changed. You know, when we started, the print music was the most, was dollar wise, was the bigger part of our business. And now, you know, both have grown, but the print music is not growing anywhere like the BI and the MI
Gotcha.
end of it are. And you know, we're part of the school market by virtue of the fact that we do the rentals and we call on schools. But I don't see that as our primary. Personally, I don't see it as our primary. You know,
Interesting.
The numbers might say something different,
right?
But
your primary, is it like the trombone things and that type of deep dive?
My primary is that we're problem solvers, that we try to make people fix it so people can make music.
Right.
Okay. And some of them are students. And I mean, I had a woman the other day who she's in her early 70s, and she decided she wanted to play the clarinet. And she, you know, she's really enjoying it, but she's having trouble. And, you know, so we sat down, we talked about, you know, if you use a metronome, this will really help solve. And, you know, it's like the world opened up for her. And it's those little moments, you know, or helping somebody pick out a mouthpiece, or, you know, helping a mom do something with her preschoolers. You know, it's those moments that really make it fun for me. And right. I think and I think, you know, the people in the store, whether they're working on the phone or working with people in person, it's like, oh, this person had a problem and I figured out how to fix it for them. And not a problem because we screwed up, which does happen, but the problem because, you know, they actually, maybe I should say, a challenge. And so school music is a piece of it. Local you know, rock or, you know, pop music type stuff is a piece of it. The avocational music maker, you know, we got into selling digital pianos and keyboards and things of that sort. Back when MIDI came, we were like the MIDI specialists. Don't ask me to do anything now with MIDI, but back, you know, 10, 15 years ago, I sort of knew my way around it.
Right.
But, you know, so as things happen, we try to stay on top of it. In the beginning, I actually would make the mistake of getting into the new stuff too quickly. Because I'd go to a NAMM show and I'd come back, oh man, this is great.
Right.
And, you know, start purchasing and stuff, and then realize, well, it's great, but the market's not here yet.
Right.
And then by the time the market showed up, all the stuff I had was
right
passe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's just I think we all are just excited about making music and helping people do that.
Gotcha.
So
your building's pretty interesting too. It's you know, had housed many businesses over the years, including kind of a world-renowned clockmaker for a long time. But I was surprised when I saw the pictures of it, which kind of drove me then to go to Google Maps too. So it looks like a very large building. How big is this building that you're in?
I don't know, but we don't take all of it.
Oh,
you know?
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. We have less than I would say less than half of it is
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so
it was a clock factory at one point, and it's like I said, it's like a factory. It's a huge building, and on Google Maps when I'm doing the street view, I couldn't see like any other business in there. I'm like, do they have that whole thing?
Yeah, no, we have the front of the building, we have the entire width of the building, and then we go back to the area we call Dilbertville, which is where the people that work on the phones and pick and stuff, and then we have a warehouse section. But there are photographers and massage therapists and a gun machinist and you know, a wood shop. I mean, there's a lot of stores. The owner of the building, you know, has just been trying to make use of it, because we're in a residential section, so you're somewhat limited to the kinds of things that you can do, but it's a historical structure, and which makes it sort of interesting when you try to do any kind of renovations or
Right.
or run wires or whatever.
Gotcha.
But, yeah, it looks very impressive when you see the size of the building. Say,
yeah,
wow, this is some store, man.
Yeah, the old photos and everything. Like it's like, wow, that's significant.
Yeah.
So what kind of things are you all working on currently at Hickey's?
We're trying to figure out how to to how to compete in a market and still keep a personal approach to the product. So that to sell enough product to stay open and have enough stuff on the floor that have as much stuff on the floor that we do. We have to sell, we have to sell a lot of it. But it's not. But we also want to make sure that at least somebody in the store knows what it is. And
that's a good idea.
Well, it's like you think of internet things and internet market, and we do answer the phone, and we do answer questions about product, because we'll go out and find it and say, oh yeah, if you look it on the back, there's the but it's getting harder and harder as the margins get thinner, and and right now I think the big thing is we're still trying to recover from the supply chain issues from the I mean, I still have POs open from 90 for stuff that they tell, oh yeah, it's going to come, we're just having supply issues. But yeah, when we get off camera, we can talk about, do you have any
we can trade some inventory back and forth.
Yeah, right. But no, the big challenge for me is that I'm going to retire, and my partner Chuck is going to take over the store, and the challenge is, how do I not do what I'm doing, both personally and who do we task in the store to take over the stuff, because I'd like to think what I do is important.
What do you do? What does your day-to-day look like?
Well, there's that email correspondence and text correspondence and podium correspondence that takes up a fair amount of the day.
So you handle that personally?
No, we all handle it, but I do a fair amount of it.
Okay, gotcha.
And I do currently I do the hard buying as far as hard goods. Chuck, and now actually he's turned that over to Peter and Lee to do the print buying, but I'm doing the instrument accessories and stuff, and we and that's sort of a daily thing as we're trying to keep track of inventory and make sure that we have stuff on the shelf. So that, and then dealing with the I don't know if you found this, we're getting so much more pushed at us by the manufacturers, whether it's changes in mat pricing or temporary mat suspensions or policy changes.
Yes.
And okay, now we're gonna have a buy, and this buy is only open for 7 days. Well, I've got other stuff planned for these 7 days.
Right.
So and it just seems to me that there's been a huge jump in the amount of stuff that the manufacturers are expecting us to deal with from that perspective, which, if all you're doing is selling boxes, is not a big deal. But if your focus is not on the selling the boxes part, but on dealing with the product and knowing about the product and dealing with people, at least in our organization, we don't have anybody that's just dealing with, how many boxes and what price to put on it. Somebody
Right.
else has to add that onto their job.
Right.
And so that is, that right now is currently our biggest challenge. It's like I have a vendor that I sell maybe 20 SKUs from, and I missed a price update. And in that price update, 15 of the SKUs we sell were discontinued. And so after the fact, I got that and you know stuck that all in there. But one of the things that if I had to do this all over again, I would probably create a third category of management, which would be more of a operating officer
Mm-hmm.
to deal with those nuts and bolts stuff, whether it's dealing with the marketing or dealing with the price changes and the map. And
Your
because
current
right,
management structure, is it finance and sales and marketing? Is that kind of the way you've got it set up then? How are you currently set
yeah,
up? Okay.
yeah. So Chuck and I are partners. I deal with the vendor relationships and the finance end of it. Um, Chuck deals with the website and the policy, uh, the policy end of it. But I've got very active employees, and I'm happy to say that since I've announced that I'm going to be retiring, they've been stepping up and taking over more and more responsibilities. And again, this was a mistake I think I made in the very beginning, is that I didn't trust anybody and tried to do everything myself.
Yeah, I'm really
And
surprised to hear, as long as you've been there, and with like, the revenues and things like that you're doing, that you're still handling the purchasing. That
it's pretty stupid.
I even like wrote that down. Like I was like, wow, that's interesting. I think that's one of the first things probably most business owners offload. Why did you keep a handle on it? Because you felt like you had such specialized acquired knowledge from participating in all these shows and your relationships and so on and so forth, and
Yes,
it was
because
just
and
easier to do it.
I'm irreplaceable. So it's you know I really enjoy it. It's like it's fun to see what's selling and what and then I'm dealing with the vendors, so I know this deal's coming up, and are you a consumer dealer? You know
Hmm.
about these incentive things they got going on, and uh, but yeah, I mean, I think that was a mistake. I should have gotten out of that, but I didn't. Uh, but now I have to train some other people.
You're
People to
getting
do
out of
that.
it now.
Yeah. I better train quickly, right? Uh, but again, these relationships. I've got people on the other end of the phone that I've been talking to for in some cases 35 years,
Yeah.
and our conversations are short, but they're meaningful, and I'm going to miss those. I'm
Right.
going to miss those. Um, but I do a lot of pressing the flesh. Going to the shows, of course, but local teachers and my repair background gives me a certain expertise that commands some respect. When they ask me a question about an instrument, they know if I give them an answer that it's not going to be a made up one.
Right.
There's a lot of times I have to go find information, but uh, so yeah, you asked me what my day is. So right now, my day is mostly responding to emails and vendor issues, and trying to figure out how to keep moving. Um,
Right. When's your retirement date set for?
January 1.
Gotcha. So I mean, as of this point, you're 2.5 months away, basically.
Yeah, yeah. Which is like, how the hell did that
Yeah.
happen?
How old is
But
Chuck?
Chuck's 10 years old. He's in his 50s.
Okay.
And I think he's in his 50s. I don't know. It's like, I think so. You'll have to ask him. I
Right.
don't.
How many employees are at Hickey's?
I think we're up at around 15 now.
Okay.
The when I announced my retirement over the summer, then we started bringing in. I should say Chuck started bringing in some people to pick up, and then we've had some turnover with people leaving town and stuff. So there's been a lot of new training going on.
Yeah.
The,
Yeah, I bet. So most experts agree that we are going to be entering into a recession, likely happening sometime in 2023. I think it's nearly unanimous, the prediction for this. What isn't unanimous, of course, is maybe the severity of it. Some people think it's going to be, the last thing I heard was 2/3 of CEOs that were polled thought it was going to be significant, like the 2008 recession or something like that. Other people thought it would be just something kind of small. So that kind of remains to be seen. But Hickey's has been through many recessions before. What using that to kind of guide you, how is Hickey's preparing for this looming recession that we're dealing with now?
Well, in a business like ours, you've got inventory and labor, and the $64 question is how much inventory should we have? And I'm going to the previous recessions we've weathered because we've always been sort of shoestring anyway. The I'm more hesitant to invest in new product now, and this is coming on the recovery from the pandemic. And I think the pandemic was much more of a challenge than this recession is going to be, unless we have mass layoffs. And being in an educational town, I don't think we're going to see mass layoffs in Ithaca.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't mean the rest of the world's not going to suffer. So I've been watching the news and not expecting that it's going to make a huge change in our day-to-day activity, but it is affecting my willingness to invest in to expose myself to debt, I guess.
Right.
So we've gone through some pretty tough times over the 40 years I've been here, or 34, 40 years when you count before I bought Hickey's. And we've survived them all. So I'm not concerned about our being able to weather it. And we're not leveraged, so that relieves a lot. I mean, we have been in the past, but right now we're not leveraged other than our accounts payable. So
right.
I think we're in pretty good shape.
Well, that's obviously a great way to recession-proof your businesses, to not be leveraged.
Yeah. And I mean, our rental season this year has been unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
And if that can continue without me having to buy a hell of a lot more horns, then that's going to be a good mainstay.
Yeah, I think that's one of the nice things about our industry, is that I wouldn't say that we're recession proof, but historically, when there is a recession and things get tight kind of financially, people do decide to make that investment in music because they think it's more of a permanent, lifelong goal and something worth investing in, more than maybe some of the experience type things that they will do, like maybe travel or dining, possibly even like video games or something like that. So I feel like that's kind of helped us. Matter of fact, I saw one of my employees sent me a screenshot of an ad on one of the social media platforms that uh, oh gosh, what's the franchised music store company that does all the used, mainly used music
Reverb? Oh, Music
music
Around,
around?
yeah.
No, but music around is putting ads out, for people that they can buy franchises and start their own music store because it's a recession proof business. And like,
Uh-huh.
maybe not wouldn't call it recession proof, but like it's certainly we have our advantages, and like
Well, I think
you,
the average ticket for at a music store is a lot less than a trip to Hawaii.
that's
So,
true. That
you
is
know,
definitely true. Yeah, that is
yeah.
definitely true.
But,
Yeah, I agreed. So you've had a long career in the music industry. Who have you admired along the way? Are there people that stand out, of people that kind of like, helped you out either, officially as a mentor or unofficially, or just key relationships that kind of showed you the way, or anything like that? Anyone stand out?
yeah, I've been thinking about that, and I'm part of a skull group uh, that calls itself the Big Eight, and uh, I was in another one before that, and those relationships of dealing with vendors that are in the same boat as you and are trusting and willing to share with you. Uh, one of my oldest relationships is with Mike White. And when I worked for Curlin Saltzman Music in El Paso for 5 years and got to know him then. And
Okay.
he's like a bad penny. He keeps showing up. Uh, and we're in this Big Eight group together, and then the folks at John Keel Music have been good. And then I had a very close friend, Sheldon Canis, who was a repair tech at Portman's Music, and Sheldon's passed away, but he was always somebody I could call, and he'd give me a rather blunt assessment of whatever I try to take from it. I mean, there's a guy named Steve Dillon who you might want
Oh yeah.
to talk to sometime. And Steve and I got to know each other doing these trombone shows, and he's got a whole different view of the world than I do. But we really enjoy batting these ideas around. Um, I'm sure I'm missing some, leaving out some people that have had a huge impact. Hans Mainick, who was my first repair teacher, and he wasn't a teacher. He was a repair tech in Philadelphia that did all the high end work for decades. And I would go down and I would just sit by him and watch and listen and see the respect that his clients gave him, and that sort of set, for me in my mind, it set this set the bar
Hmm.
where I wanted to to have that kind of credibility. So yeah, it's I mean, we don't live in a vacuum, and
Hmm.
I just I think that um, I was a player and a repair tech, and then I got into business. So I think if I had had a real business mentor, that would have given me some. I would have avoided some headaches. I did work with the Friedman Group for
Hmm.
for and Glenn Ingalls came in, and did things of that sort, which I think really helped the business.
Friedman, as in Alan Friedman, the
Yeah,
accountant. Okay.
yeah, yeah. So that really jumped us from the you know musicians trying, pretending to be businessmen to, oh yeah, this is what you need to look at.
Right.
Um, uh, and then, and, but I just never was really interested in the business end as much as the people end.
Right.
And I think that slowed down the progress of the story because we weren't looking at the right things.
So tell me more about that.
About the slowing, that not
Yeah.
looking at the right things.
Yeah, you're not looking at the right. What kind of things were you not looking at?
Well, let me rephrase that. I looked at it, but I didn't like it. So turns. Okay, you need to have turns.
That's why I don't look in the mirror.
Yeah.
One of my
But you're
favorite
on
times
social
of
media all the time. What are you
yeah,
talking about?
it's one of my favorite things about the house we live in. We first moved in. The previous owners, it was a foreclosure, had basically taken like everything that they could possibly take, including all the mirrors, which is a little weird to live in a house without any mirrors. But I actually kind of quickly got accustomed to it and loved it. And then, but my wife insisted, of course, we have to have mirrors back in the bathroom again. And so we put these huge mirrors in, and now you can see them as soon as you step out of the shower. And let me tell you, it's a revolting way, a very undignified
Yes,
way to
right.
start your
If you
morning.
weren't awake, then you are, right?
Yeah, I'd have to look at myself naked like that in these mirrors. Like I miss the days when we didn't have them. So,
Yeah.
but yeah. So turns, you didn't like what you saw. So let's get me back on track here.
Okay, so we set years and years ago. We said, well, if we don't sell four in a year, we probably shouldn't sell it. And that actually is still our benchmark. But I want this. I want to have this in the store. And so looking at the numbers and how it changes when you're more careful with your inventory does make a difference. And as you talk about the recession thing, to jump ahead again. So, for example, with Consumer, we buy now and we pay in the fall. Other vendors do that too, but I just did my Consumer, so it's fresh in my mind. And so you always worry, okay, what's it going to be like in September when this thing comes, when this thing comes due? And given that there's talk about a recession, I'm being a little bit more hesitant on the big ticket items. The small stuff I know I'm going to sell. I know I'm going to sell 20 of these mouthpieces and 30 of this, and umpteen of that. So I'm not worried about that. But the trombones, we love trombone, so we have shelves and shelves of trombones, and we're starting to see that some of those trombones aren't selling as fast as we'd like them to sell. And I think that 20 years ago I wouldn't have paid too much attention to that. Just, well, you got to have it. And now it's like, we'd like to have it, but we probably would rather put that money somewhere where we're going to sell four of them a year.
Right.
So,
right.
So those are the kind of numbers. I mean, one of our biggest deficits is marketing. We've got our website. We've got a subscription to Constant Contact. I can't tell you the last time we sent out a thing.
Yep.
We have. I've been going through some other files and I'm finding all these. Oh, we used to send out these cute postcards with promotions, and we used to do all this kind of stuff, and we're not doing it anymore. So, what would happen if we started, actively doing that? Are you going to be quiet, or do you have to leave? Okay. Um, and getting back to what I was saying before, I'm going to take a pause and
Sure,
take the bird out because
you got it.
oh yeah, so we were talking about marketing. Let's see here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I hate marketing. I just hate it. And when I have somebody that likes it in on staff, then we do it. Um, and but it always seems to fall to the bottom of the to-do list of
Right.
of all the things that have to happen. And that's probably a mistake. That's probably a mistake, particularly when you see how many things people are being hit with. And the fact that I resent getting hit with that stuff from other vendors, I think influences my reluctance to jump on that bandwagon. What do you guys do?
Like you, we do a shit job with it. We're not consistent. Unlike you, I have an employee that his job is to do marketing, and it's we feel
Uh-huh.
him do great at it. And his defense too, he also does like he's kind of our main go-to guy for hiring and training, especially salespeople and managers. So he often does other pieces, not just the marketing piece. But I'm constantly reminded that email marketing is still one of the best bangs for your buck that you should be doing, and I get various people that remind me of that, but we don't do a great job with it. And I think the only time I enjoy marketing is when I remind myself that this is my chance to talk to my customer and to not think of my customers as this big monolithic group, but really like to picture them as a person.
Mm-hmm.
And I have another business that I started almost, I guess, about 15 years ago now, that's now merged into Ernie Williamson Music, but it's a specialty electric bass uh, retail business, online only. And the way I market that business is a website, and then a lot of video content. And I take a lot of lessons from that and try to apply them over to the main company. And sometimes I forget to really push those things through. But definitely when I do like these the people come to me not because I'm like the world's greatest bass player, but they come to me because I think they feel like they know me. And when I do these videos, I'm literally thinking of talking to me. I'm talking to me, the bass player who's watching this video. And when I'm looking at my camera and seeing me, I'm talking to myself, and not just all monolithic bass customers. And it's very personal, and I don't mind bringing in my family or the dog or whatever. In my background, I often will have I basically have my bar in my background, and so people will kind of comment on that. But it's definitely a different feel than what you'd find from Sweetwater or something like that. And it's been very successful. I work with three bass brands, and two of them I'm their number one dealer in the world.
Wow.
So like I'm moving a lot of product from that, and I really love it. And our conversation today and some conversations I've had over the last week or two has just reminded me like I need to take those lessons that I'm learning in my little bass lab and apply it over to this really big gold mine that I'm working on in my day job, you know, because that's
Right,
really, I mean,
right.
the base business makes pretty good money actually. But the real money is made at Ernie Williamson. And
So,
uh,
so, so to continue that though, clearly the marketing for the base business is paying off.
mhm.
How do you make your decisions about the cost of the marketing for Ernie Williamson? So I think videos are a great tool.
Yeah.
But it's like, what part of our resources do we put towards that? And I'm just very cheap. and so
Well,
I,
yeah,
and with
I can
I'm
be,
so unsure of what the return on the investment is going to be.
yeah, I can be frugal too. You know, I think, you know, it's actually even over the last week, and I even wrote a couple things down during our conversation today. Um, you know, I definitely would like us to set up an email automation program and really use that, because with technology today, you can have a whole series of emails that once you add a customer's email to your email database, that they all of a sudden start getting this schedule of emails. It's very simple and affordable to do. I think the key, what I want to work on when we work on these emails, is not to do the same type of transactional sale email that everyone gets. Because like you, I generally hate getting that stuff. I get so much email already that I'm a ruthless unsubscriber. I
Right.
unsubscribe from so many things, but I do subscribe to certain things. But I subscribe to those things that provide value. And uh, that I think is the key, and real value. So I think about my subscriptions. I've got a weekly Monday morning memo from the Wizard Academy that I get, which is advertising marketing thing. I have the guy who wrote the Habits book, the Atomic Habits book. He has a tremendous email thing that's very thought provoking and very interesting. So I subscribe to some of those kind of things because they add value. I basically don't stay subscribed to any type of sale thing. Um, this week I was looking for some golf stuff, and go to their websites and subscribe, and you'll save 10% or whatever. I'd subscribe just long enough to get the deal, and then once I was done, I'd unsubscribe. You know, because I don't want to get their plethora of sale emails and stuff like that. So if I want to talk to myself, if I'm trying to find myself as a customer, which may or may not be a good strategy for businesses, it depends. I need to make sure that I'm really providing value in that. And on the video side, frankly, the cost for video today is so small. I use a light kit I've bought off Amazon that I think is $100 or whatever. I use my cell phone and a mount. Of course, today with how popular TikTok is, it's actually better to not use a mount. TikTok is best to hold the phone this way, so you get a little bit of, like, you know, natural movement, because that's the
Uh-huh.
platform. And so, but I find it very effective to do, or cost effective to do. The problem we have, and I, you know, I'm hoping that our marketing person doesn't feel like I'm throwing him under the bus, because I'm certainly don't mean to. And he and I have had a long 20-year history together. Uh, but that he's not personally very involved in social media, so he doesn't like participate much in it. And so sometimes I feel like our content kind of misses the mark because he may not be familiar with the platform. TikTok is a good example. We're putting effort into making TikTok
This is the
videos.
one I haven't even looked at yet.
Okay, but TikTok's fascinating. I you know, it's
Yeah, I certainly see a lot of peripheral stuff about it.
yeah,
It's just
uh,
I've been afraid to jump into another.
yeah, genius algorithm. You know, it does a great job of curating content that you're interested in, and will serve it to you. But there's a lot of trends and things like that that kind of happen on TikTok, and there's kind of like a style for TikTok. And if you're not the kind of person who's spent an hour or 2 hours a day uh, watching TikTok, especially during the pandemic, you may not be really aware of it, and so you just do
Yeah.
like other videos. And sometimes I feel like you either miss out. It's not so much that they don't fit the vibe for TikTok, but you're missing stuff. You're missing when there's a trend happening that you can kind of pull people in, and that TikTok will serve that trend up a lot. And so we miss that kind of stuff, which I'd like to see us do. But the other thing that I still like, even though it's difficult, I think now to build a YouTube audience, but YouTube is great for more kind of long tail type things. If you're going to stock we've talked so much about trombones, let's keep that going. You're going to stock a Con 88H trombone. Well, you can put some time and effort into doing, a few videos on that instrument, and that Con 88H trombone has been a good seller since its inception, basically. And if someone finds your YouTube video from 7 years ago about the Con 88H with a link to your website, it could result in a sale today. And so YouTube's great for that. It's not really great unless you have a big audience for maybe like print music for the pop hits for 2022 or whatever, things that are really short term. But that's where things like TikTok, Facebook, YouTube Shorts, maybe Instagram Reels, I think those tend to do better there. But as you said, you have to have someone, I think, that really gets into that and is personally involved and invested in that. But I do think the marketing side of it's important. I'm with you in that it's our two key failures in the 20 years I've been here has been marketing. We're not great at tooting our own horn, and we're not great at doing it consistently. And also our website has just been atrocious. And I've spent all kinds of money and all kinds of time to try to not be terrible at it, but it's still terrible. And we're trying it once again, and I've actually got some optimism this time, but I've been optimistic before and been let down. So our website is so bad that
it is. I mean, we're using really old technology at this point, and I mean it's doing the job for us, but it's a balancing act. So where am I going to put my energy? Where am I going to put my money? I've spent a lot of money that never has come to fruition, just like in that. And
yep.
It's it's frustrating.
It really is. I mean, over the years
they promise you the world. And
yes. Well, and what's funny is the other day my wife was making me sort out some papers in a file cabinet we had at home. And in it, I found my original employment contract that the previous owner had made for me when I first started here 20 years ago. Uh-huh. And I had an employment contract because he moved me from Oklahoma to here, and I was uprooting my family and all that. It's kind of a big deal. So we had an employment contract, and in it there was a bunch of goals and objectives. Growing the rental program, growing sales, and so on and so forth. I had hit all those things in that calendar year. I achieved all those things, but the last thing that was on there was to develop an e-commerce website. And I thought, man, it's been 20 years and I've still failed at that goal. And it's super frustrating. And we in the early days, most iterations that we've done of this, we would try to kind of do it on the cheap. And I'd find like the cheapest kind of way to do it, and because I just didn't think, in the aughts that I'd have a lot of local customers that would care about it, and I didn't think we would, national customers would know who we were, so I just didn't want to spend a lot of money on it. And the results showed we'd have maybe good-looking billboard sites, but they weren't useful for e-commerce. And then we had a couple of runs at e-commerce, but we didn't have the staff dedicated to it. Didn't work. Well, when I bought the business, I decided, like, you know what, like, I'm going to put the money into this. Like, we're going to build a competitive, really good e-commerce site, and I'm not going to be cheap. So I went out and hired a developer that has worked for some big companies, Florida State University, JBL, and spent tens of thousands of dollars on a website that, frankly, is garbage. Can't even process orders on it. Like, so I feel a little bit snake bit about it. And I'm so frustrated with it that last Christmas Eve, I got Joel Minchie agreed to do a quick meeting with me, and I kind of went through to some of my frustrations, and he helped me out quite a bit and gave me a reference for the developer we're using now. So if this developer ends up working out and I end up getting this e-commerce site, then I'll readily share their information with other folks, because it's been such a struggle. But I do think that for us going forward, our email marketing, likely some kind of text marketing is still relevant to some degree for customers that opt in. Video marketing is without a doubt like here to stay, and you got to have a good website. So for us, we're trying to put our future efforts into those things.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I guess
then
that's going to
in
be
the
Chuck's
meantime,
responsibility.
and then in the meantime, run a music store, right?
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, that's one thing that I'm really fortunate. I've got a team of people that really help me run it, and my job is to kind of chart a path forward and to kind of push us forward. I don't have a lot of day-to-day responsibilities that are really all that important. You know, hold the leadership team accountable and stuff like that. But certainly, if I could take off for a month and this business will run very, very well. I have absolutely no doubt about that. And I'm very fortunate to have people in leadership positions that, to me, I treat them like partners, basically, that have a lot of investment involvement in the areas they run and oftentimes run it like they own it, which I'm
That's
grateful
great.
for. And
Yeah.
but I never wanted to have to feel like that I had to be here all the time. And I like the variety of getting to work on new problems and challenges and stuff like that. So I kind of quickly got out. And frankly, I'm just not as invested or as good at some of the things. Like the guy that does our purchasing, Donnie Kraft, just does a great job with it. And he has worked tirelessly with the folks over at TriTech to make significant improvements to the software for version 12. And there's so many little features that people may see they're coming out that are solely his ideas of talking to their support team and development team about how something should function. And he's just so invested in it, and he's done such a great job of keeping us stocked during this recession during the pandemic.
Yeah.
We've had supply issues here and there, but really nothing significant, and generally he's always been able to find a substitute or something like that. So having people like that to be able to just
Yeah.
keep things
That's
moving.
great. Yeah.
And it makes it fun. These are the people why I come to work every day. I come to work because I want to see what Donnie's working on. I come to work because I want to hear about Misty's successes with the lesson program. I come to work because I want to hear what problems Amanda's uncovered and how she's already fixed them. And these are all the reasons why I come into the office. Want to see what's happening.
Your lesson program back up and running now, or did
Yes.
you not shut down?
We went virtual, and we're still doing some virtual lessons today, but the program is back, which I'm really excited about. And I know Misty Christek, who's our VP of Education, she has worked tirelessly to get this program back, and obviously there for a while. It was just clear, like, okay, like we're going to take our focus off lessons because it's just a sinking ship at this moment, during the pandemic.
Right.
Shift to virtual when we can, but just like it's just an area we didn't feel like was worth putting our time into at that point. There was other opportunities to work on. But then when things started to turn around, we could see like, okay, it's we can bring the program back. Customers are wanting this again. Then you have the challenge of getting teachers and staffing. And she has done a really nice job. Misty and our store managers together have done a really nice job of finding teachers and getting them back on board. So our lesson program is back, which is great.
That's
And
great.
like you, we had a record rental season the last 2 years. So it's been really great to see that too.
Neat.
So last couple of questions here. Talk to me about maybe one of the biggest challenges that you've dealt with at Hickey's, and how did you overcome it?
Well, on a personal level, it was not taking responsibility for everything. Yes, the buck stops here, but doesn't mean I have to do everything.
Right.
And that's something I still struggle with. But having good people makes it a lot easier. But if I had pushed myself to trust those people sooner, I think it would made for a much different experience. the biggest challenge in the early days of ownership, money was a real problem, and figuring out how to finance and be leveraged and meet responsibilities and stuff that was a huge challenge. And I pulled out all the stops to make it work, and fortunately it did. Other than that, I mean, all these things are challenges, but the beginning of the pandemic was a challenge, and we worked together and we figured out how to do it, and we survived. And you know, I think that that's part of what makes living and the business and but life in general makes it worthwhile. It's like, okay, I got this problem, I'm going to fix it, and you fix
Right.
it, and they say, hey, yeah, cool, we did it. And not too many people were left on the roadside, so that makes it even better. Um, so yeah, nothing just leaps out at me other than my own personal failings. um, it's did I make a note on that? Let's see. Yeah, the I would say generally, you have business decisions and personal desires. And when the business decision requires you to take a stand against a personal relationship, that's tough.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you say, well, it's nothing personal, but it's,
Yeah.
those are hard decisions to make.
Yeah.
And certainly the least pleasurable part of the job. Fortunately, it doesn't happen too often, but
Right.
when it does, it's causes a lot of sleepless nights.
Yeah. I feel like it's, even if it's nothing personal, it's always personal.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're dealing with
Absolutely.
people, so it can't help but be personal.
Yeah. But again, going back to what I said in the beginning, fortunately, most of the people in this business are pretty decent.
Yeah.
At least
Without
the
a
people
doubt.
that I've run into.
I totally agree. Totally agree.
Yeah.
So tell me about a negative situation you've experienced in your career that ultimately ended up having a positive outcome or positive effect, but you never want to repeat it again.
Getting into the rental business.
That is a challenging elephant to tackle for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that was a combination of personal business conflicts, and uh, it was a whole. I mean, I got into the rental business, and I was basically a 1.5 man show, and and I was the typical repairman. I was always behind anyway as a repair tech, and then all of a sudden I had to deal with this other thing on top of it, and it was like, oh, what the hell did I do?
Right.
Uh, but uh, but I came out on the other side of it, and it's certainly not the biggest part of our business, but it's a market, it's a measurable part of our business,
Yeah.
and it's a great form of cash flow, and it. I mean, I used to call on schools, and all I was doing was picking up and delivering repairs, and now I'm picking up and delivering repairs, but I'm also picking up and delivering rentals,
Right.
and and then that opens the doors for other purchases with the schools and stuff. So I mean, it's turned out to be a real important thing for the business, but I I suffered a lot in the beginning.
It's a tough business. I mean, getting into the rentals, certainly, like once you've got it established and everything else, it's very meaningful in terms of revenue and profitability. But the forecasting that's required is very complicated and difficult, and you've got to just have good intuition, and you're going to get lucky and unlucky as you do it. The cash flow required for it is significant, and I think that's what a lot of people, when they express interest in. It's like, boy, you got to be
They
prepared.
underestimate what's
Yes.
involved. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I used to do all of our ordering for band seasons, and we were growing our school music so fast. The previous owner was concerned that I was going to grow us out of business because the cash demands to purchase the inventory were outpacing what the revenue that was being brought in by the rentals. Of course, back then you'd maybe average wholesale cost to be $300 for a rental your average rental instrument, but it would rent out for 25 or $30 a month, and you got 3 months to pay it at the end of the year, but you've only collected 2 or 3 months worth of rent on the instruments. You've collected less than $100. You're paying 300 for it. Like, it doesn't take much of that to create a severe cash flow crunch, and unless you've got significant profits from elsewhere inside the business, it can make it very, very challenging. And like you, when I first got into this, I didn't really know any of that stuff. I
Yeah.
remember my interview with Lee, the previous owner. We would sit down, and I met with him, and I also met with his with a CPA. It wasn't his CPA, but it was a local CPA, and they would sit and talk to me about, like, profitability and inventory turns and cash flow. And I would, like, oh yeah, cash flow, lifeblood of every business. I had no idea what any of it meant, really. Like, I knew what profit margin was. That was about all I knew. I didn't know anything about turns or anything else. I just kind of bullshitted my way through it, and then went to the library and got a book, because this is
Yeah.
pre-Google. So I had to go figure out what all these things meant. And then like you had mentioned, discovered Alan Friedman through NAM, and went to every seminar he would do. Even if I'd heard it 10 times, I'd still go, because I
You always
felt
pick
like
something up. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
I felt like I always learned something new. And Alan just has a knack for making something that can be complicated, like financials, make it understandable and entertaining at the same time.
Right.
And then I think maybe 5 or 6 years ago, we had the pleasure to actually use Friedman Canterbury as our accountant, which has been helpful as well. But I think through that, I ended up becoming pretty adept at the finance side of it. I've got a good head for numbers and stuff, and kind of enjoyed it. But now the person we have that handles all that for us internally, Amanda Reuter, she's just, she's one of the smartest people I know, and has just she's got formal training in it, and she's just done such a better job with all the stuff
It's
than
so
I did.
delightful when you have somebody that actually knows what they're doing.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it really, really is. And it makes it delightful, like you said. That's the perfect word for it. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So, final question: if you could send a message to a younger you, what would you say?
Find a mentor. And the skull groups are great, but if you could find a mentor, I mean, I would do skull groups also, and I don't know that it necessarily even has to be in the music business, but it would certainly be helpful for work.
Mm-hmm.
But to keep you focused, I think having someone there just to touch base with, and ask you the question of why you're doing this.
Right.
I think would be the number one thing.
Yeah.
Because I think so many of us get into this business because it's sort of an avocation gone commercial, and we don't really know why we're doing it until it's either too late or you run into somebody like Freeman, and he sort of like kicks you in the butt.
Yeah.
But if you can start answering those questions earlier, I think you end up in a better place.
And you have friends and allies and partners along the
Oh
way,
yeah.
and relationships, which is something you've talked about a lot today. Yeah,
Well,
I
and we didn't talk about RPMDA and NASMD and all of these other organizations, which again, they've all created openings and mini mentorships. And
mm-hmm.
you find somebody at one of these conferences that knows what you're looking for,
Yeah.
and you glom onto them, much to their regret. But you come away with stuff that solves problems, and it's really valuable.
I've been so fortunate to have several mentors over my career that without a doubt, I would not be where I am today without those mentors, without NAM. So I'm very grateful for that. And I'm honored the last couple of years I've been able to be a mentor through the NAMYP program. And I find it so rewarding to share what I've learned. And I understand now why people like Chuck Overwater and George Hines and just other mentors I've had. I understand now why they were willing to help some dumb kid out of Missouri, because it feels, not only does it feel good to give back and help somebody who will wants to help themselves, someone who will do the work. It's very, you just feel great in your heart for doing that. It's also really nice. As a mentor, it gives you an opportunity to reflect on the successes you've had, because I'm the type of person I often focus on what's wrong, and I think a lot
Yeah,
of business
yeah.
owners are that way. We find what's wrong and we set about fixing it. We rarely think about what we've accomplished or what's right.
I think that's general musicians as well.
That's probably true. Probably true.
It's like, I got to fix that. I got to fix
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
But when you work with someone that you're mentoring, a lot of the challenges they deal with are things that you have already met and addressed previously in your career. And so to be able to share that wisdom with someone and help someone else through that just helps you to realize, like, gosh, I have done a lot and know a lot about what I'm doing. Like,
Yeah.
I forget that sometimes because I'm
Yeah.
so focused on my poor marketing and my crappy website that I
Yeah.
forget that I
Right.
actually am pretty knowledgeable in a lot of other things because I've just done this for so long,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I've cared about it and I've been invested in it. And so I find that to be super useful. And I would encourage anybody, really, regardless of age, to go find a mentor. And if you're just getting started out, my son has worked in the company for about a year, doing a great job as a salesperson. He's got a mentor right now through NAMYP. They are kind of piloting a junior mentor program for him. He's 21. Stephen Olson from Blues Angel Music is his mentor, and I think that's going great. If you're under 40 to be a NAMYP member, you can totally sign up for their mentorship program there, which is great. But if you're over 40 and still got things to learn, or maybe just need to be re-inspired, maybe you're feeling burned out or tired or worn out or whatever, finding a mentor or coach or a group or something that is positive and will kind of help you reignite those fires, I think is time and money well spent.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then someday you can retire.
And
Or at
that's
least
the
die
alleged
doing what
plan.
you love.
Yeah.
So
Right. Right.